Thank you once again for joining me to talk all things verticals. I'm very happy to introduce another wonderful guest who is the actress Clare Louise Frost. So I'm going to ask Clare to give a little brief introduction of herself to you, the world, and the internet.
Hi, everybody, and hello, Jen. And first and foremost, and always, such gratitude to Jen for bringing this community together. And I can't wait to see who else she interviews because I want to learn so much more. My name is Clare Louise Frost. I'm an actor. I've been an actor for 15 or 17, more than 15 years. I started off in Turkey. I cut my teeth in Turkish soap operas and Dizi and in commercials. I lived in Istanbul for about 9 years full time. And there I was a working actor. I also did voiceover. And that was actually how, oh, my light keeps going off. That's how I got into verticals as well. I'm based in New York now, and I'm an actor here. I do whatever screen work I can get. I'm a union actor. And I'm also a filmmaker. I have a small independent film company. We make narrative features, and we made a few shorts. Now it's only features, and we're in post on a second feature now.
Wow, you've done it all. So right, first we'll have to plug in. Do not worry about the light. It's all good. Mine's generally, I just look grey. People are used to it. Very pale and grey. Was it always going to be acting? Or was there anything else that another path you could have pursued?
I do. Like my actor friends sometimes say I'm lucky because I have two things, but both of them are equally ridiculous. I went to Turkey originally to work for an antique textile collector. She was an ethnographer who documented women's work, especially weaving and nomadic peoples moving around Anatolia. So I do have a background in textiles, and I always liked acting along the way. And at different points of my life, I tried to combine them by doing costume design for theater and in college a little bit. And when I was in high school, I did acting and costume design at the same time. I've always liked to sew. And yeah, no, I always just liked acting, and I knew that I was good at it. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I also know it's an impossible job. And it's a job you never really get to do. And a lot of people drop out of it, of course, as you get older, because there's less and less opportunity and less hope. Also, you do have to pay your rent. So, if you don't become a name, then you're a working actor at best, which means you're really you're going to, after COVID, now all auditions are online, but you used to go into, audition rooms, and it's, 12 other people that look just like you, but they look better. And you're all going for the same part that's a day player, which I'd be thrilled to get.
So, having done all that, I guess the question is, when did verticals first pop into your consciousness? When were you aware that this was a thing and a new avenue for working actors to pursue?
I still have an agent, although I've lived in New York for the last 9 or 10 years now. I do have an agent in Istanbul, and I, audition for things in Istanbul. I've done a Netflix show in Turkey. I do commercials when I'm in town. I go back and forth as much as I can. Anyway, I got a text from my agent, and she said, there's this new thing they're called, and this is all in Turkish, they're called vertical series, and they need Americans. It's for the American market. Are you interested? I was like, sure. I was like, vertical series? And I was like, I don't even know what that means. It didn't occur to me that it was a vertical phone. And she said, it's for an app. They show them on apps. And I was like, I don't care where they're used. If it's a good gig, it's a good gig. So she sent me the script for the audition, and it was a werewolf script. And I was like,
wow, that's a start.
I was like, what? And I was like, am I a werewolf? I think, and I was like the Luna or whatever, and my son is the alpha. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I was like, do I get to wear a costume? Is there fur? Like, I was really excited. I was like, how in depth are we getting here? And in this, the scene that was the audition, I slapped someone twice. Like, it starts with a slap and it ends with a slap. And I call someone like a filthy wench. And I was like, this is ridiculous. But I could tell by the script, they meant it. It wasn't like a parody, or it wasn't done badly. It was a werewolf story told with all the seriousness of a werewolf story. And I was like, all right, let's go for it. And I got a couple in a row then. One was a werewolf one.
I think that's the key, isn't it? It's like just leaning into the madness.
Exactly. And I think, actors get a lot of credit. I think too much credit, because we are the face of it. We're the ones you see, except my light keeps going off. Like, you don't see the director, you don't see the writer, you don't see the props person, you don't see the costume person. We are literally given what to say, and we show up and we say it. So best case scenario, you have a good writer. and you have a good director who knows how to make the situation tell the story. Because an actor is only one part of the story. And we get to say words. So we're like better than like a vase or like set dressing because we get to say the words as well, not just like show visually the story. But yes, like the joke of it is, or the game of it is, we're not telling the joke. The joke is or the game is the whole thing. And, when you see an actor trying to be funny, it's sometimes not funny because the situation is funny. But the funny part is the person in the situation doesn't know it's funny or doesn't know it's over the top. They take it seriously. And that kind of acting I love. And you rarely get to do that kind of stuff outside of verticals. But anyway, after this first audition, I had to Google it. I Googled it and I found an article in the New York Times from like the year before that explained it to me. And I was like, oh, what? Like, how many apps are there? Like, who's watching these? And then I started seeing people on the subway, watching and scrolling. I was like, oh, I guess that's it.
I just want to go back to the fact, obviously, you've worked in Turkish TV and Dizi, and often when, particularly I'm talking sort of TV people now, and they're trying to understand verticals, that's one of the reference points they have. Could you maybe just talk a bit about the similarities and differences?
Sure. That's a good question. When I first went to Turkey to do my first vertical, I was like, this is perfect because Turkish crews know exactly this genre. And Turkish telenovela are called Dizi, which just means series. And they're primetime shows. And back in the day, before streaming, they were feature length, like an hour and a half every week. And they're very melodramatic. And there's usually, different genres. I mean, there's like a mafia genre, there's, mistaken identity, but they are very serious usually. And there's usually like a mother-in-law, there's love, a romantic couple that can't get together. Maybe they're from the wrong side of the tracks or like something is holding them apart. There's a secret in the past. There's a conniving uncle who like wants the money and people love them. And some similarities are they're shot really fast. And for example, like back in the day, you're on set 5 days a week. On the 6th day, they edit it and put music in. And on the 7th day, it's on TV. So like they can turn it around. That's a feature length production. Yeah. And it's just like excuse the expression, like balls to the wall getting it done. It's a little bit better now because there is Netflix. And so people are taking time. They're also taking time to do better production value. But in the Dizis, there are like high-end ones, and then there's just like, fluorescent lights, let's go kind of ones as well. But I think like the seriousness of them and the melodramatic plot twist and the dun 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 moments is very similar. And people, like I said, like everyone will stop and watch the Dizi every week. Will watch their favorite one.
So, because I've watched a few, but I think the thing where they lost me was obviously the fact it's an ongoing serial.
Yes.
So obviously you get really invested. They sort of get together, the main couple, and then obviously something will happen like, and now he's lost his memory and we're going to reset the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think I was like, I need like closure. I can't cope with the fact that now we're going through the whole trauma again.
Right.
Of
and one of
everyone
the
manipulating the situation.
Yeah. With Netflix, it's different because it's a whole different structure, but traditional Dizis, they didn't write them. They write them as they go along. So based on how well they do week to week, they change the plot, or they're like, oh, this show's really popular. Uh-oh, we need a second season. Oh, give him amnesia. Like, I don't know. It doesn't matter how ridiculous it is if the people in the story believe it, So, or same thing, they can cancel characters. It's very bad for job security. It's a bad job for
because the other thing I would say that I felt that there was a similarity is definitely some of the ones that I watched were there was that bit slightly more business money setting. There was a bit more of the conniving family, and as you said, there would often be a brilliant scheming older lady somewhere who looked gorgeous, like drop dead, but causing a lot of problems. So I guess it felt like that was possibly where that sort of billionaire thing translates over quite nicely to verticals as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like one of the wonderful things about verticals, or terrible depending on if you like them or not, is that characters are tropes. You have the naive girl, you have the rich boy who's controlled by his conniving mother. You have the second husband character who's sort of a dope. And those can be really soothing to watch because you know those people. And like, I'm not expecting the evil stepmother or the dopey husband to suddenly like snap to and be like, wait a second, I can be a better person. You know, we don't actually want that. We want them to continue to create problems that our heroes will have to get through to find love.
I think that's what you've really tapped into, actually, in that we talked a bit before off camera about basically as viewers, we want escapism. And actually a slightly reassuring escapism. And so I think there is a bit about you need that reassuring of just, I want to watch, bad people get their comeuppance and the good people overcome and it will all be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's, you know, in America, we have the Hallmark Channel, which is a regular TV channel, but it makes movies that are very heartwarming and they're all the exact same story. They ended happily. And, you know, the details of it change. Like, is she moving from the big city back to her hometown to save the family bakery or the family, you know, historic house that's being torn down? And then she finds the love and blah, blah, blah. But
there's a lot of
Christmas, but you want it to go there.
There's a lot of Christmas tree farms. Hallmark would have you believe that all America is full of is endless Christmas tree farms.
I know, and there's really not that many, but yeah, but it's like set in a way that's immediately understandable and has emotional contents.
Yeah. Which
people love, you know.
So once you started working in Turkey on sets, presumably the crew, is it right? The crew's mainly Turkish, but then you've got American actors coming in. How does that kind of work? And then presumably there must be some Turkish background and day players. How does the sort of divide work? And how do you come, I guess, as a multinational team together to create something?
Sure. Like one great thing about Turkey is they're big production companies who know it's a full setup. So everyone's pretty comfortable and like everyone knows what they're doing. Lots of people speak English, obviously, like all the director, the producer, like AD, all the people that the actor is going to have a lot of interaction with speak English. And one thing that always strikes me about vertical sets in general is how communal they are, how collegial, and there's not like it's very strange, actually. It's like culture shock for me, how much, I've been on sets and been on TV shows and movies. You never talk to the director. The director doesn't know your name. The director doesn't talk to you. They're like in Video Village way off because it's just such a big production. As an actor, you go, you do your job, and then you sit down or you go home. There's none of this like discussion about, oh, should I do this? What if I change the line? Whereas verticals have that. And I think there is something about the smallness of the set. It's and just like the nature of so many people on set being so young, that I usually find myself to be the oldest or the second oldest person on set, period. And there's a lot of youthful energy that naturally comes together, whether they're British actors coming in or American actors or, you know, Turkish crew or local Turkish or foreign actors. And it's quite striking. It's very, very, very different.
Two of the probably the main shows that people will have seen you in were because obviously everyone's very savvy with their social media and Instagram. So it was, people knew that Eric Gilmet, Grace Swanson and Kelsey Maskell went and did back-to-back verticals in Turkey, and obviously you were in both. What were your memories from each project? What were the best things you got to do? How was it working with, you know, I guess people who were really established in verticals? I mean, all three of them have sort of been making them since 2023. Just memories, I guess, is what I'm memories and stories.
It's really interesting because I'm not a young person, and you know, well, like we say, like I have 10 years more than, you know, some of the big vertical stars, or 15 years more, but like I'm not in the scene as much. And like I was saying about set and like this collegial, like youthful atmosphere, there's also a lot of behind the scenes and Instagram this and like phone out between takes because you got to capture something. And that's part of the vertical world too. It's not just what's on your phone that's the series. It's also this behind the scenes, getting to know the actors who are doing it as they're doing it, which in a big set you just couldn't do because you decide, you know, that's an NDA. You'd be fired.
Interesting.
But with verticals, because it's internet based and app based, it's like encouraged because that gets more clicks, you know. So to bring people on their phones to see the show, use your phone, you know, what the media they're already on.
Sorry, you've just blown my mind because I've never realized that. And you're so right. Thank you. Thank you for blowing my mind.
But for me, like that was that's like a huge culture shock for me. Like it's like I was like gobsmacked. But both of those shows had the exact same plots, more or less, which is very funny. And it just, scrambled the person. Like, was it Grace or was it Kelsey? Like, who was the good girl and who was the nasty girl? And what I like about Verticals too, it is like the old studio system where you go and you just crack a bunch out, and you just get to the point where, like, I don't even remember what my name is in this one, which is fine actually. And it's like it's actually easier to do that way, in a way. Like, you get your lines, you say them. You're in the scene, you say it. I read the full script, but I'm only in certain scenes. One, and now, like, I'm not going to remember which one it was. I did a scene with Eric, which I really liked. It was really fun to be his mom and like tell him what to do face to face, because and that one we'd been on the phone, and it's the Vegas one. And I was like, come back from Vegas. I'm sending the plane or whatever. And we meet in the architecture office, and he's great. And he's just great to work with. And he's got like a very, like, sort of grounded energy, but it's like an energy. And he was just there, and it was really fun to play with him. And what I liked about that scene too is that it's very rare in verticals, and Turkey does it better. I think the Chinese ones are usually just stock still, to have actually movement in a scene, because blocking is really hard because you have, 2 inches. And that one, we got to walk into it. And it's very hard to orchestrate too, to make it seem like it doesn't make it seem like it's actually real. So that's always fun, because you actually feel like you're in a place, not just standing and delivering a line and then, cut to the other person delivering their line. They were all great. It was really fun to work with all of them. And it's not just working, because even if you don't have a scene, you're in the cars, back and forth from the hotel to set. And it was fun because I spent a lot of time in Turkey, and it was their first time to see through their eyes, exploring a new place. And I was thinking, for all of them, how adventurous it is, and they will get on a plane and come to Turkey, a place they've never been, to do it, to trust this production company to do right by them. And so I give them a lot of credit for being brave. And then getting there, knowing no one is like cracking out the work.
Presumably you are like, right, person to ask for like travel tips, eating out tips, just everything.
I'm always happy to give them. I do have my favorites. I'm always happy to give them. But I'm glad when people want to go places that are, a little off the beaten track, or to actually discover a place, for sure.
What kind of roles then do you find? Okay, I have to be delicate, but I can say it. I'm of a certain age. I don't think you're of my certain age, but over 20, shall we say. And obviously you talked a little bit about the fact that when you're an actress in a certain thing, are verticals providing actually more roles for
it depends.
An actress of a certain, who's not like 20, basically?
No, I don't think so. Not at this time. And I think, I know that I'm 41. There have been some verticals that are based on, what they call middle-aged people. And, like Love After Divorce. Like, I've seen a couple of those floating around sometimes. But I do think there's a reason why verticals are based on young couples. Because, like, the genre is about people being naive in situations, mixed identities, being embarrassed, and, like, basically falling in love for the first time. And someone 41 is not falling in love for the first time. There's not the freshness. And so the roles that I get are the evil stepmother, which is, I'm happy to do. It's fun. And there's a lot of different ways you can be an evil stepmom. You can sell your stepdaughter into slavery to cover your gambling debts. You can scheme people out of their inheritance. There's lots of ways. But those are the roles, basically.
Yeah. I have to ask, what's the most dastardly thing you think you've done in a vertical?
I do think selling my stepdaughter into marriage, sex slavery to the mafia to cover my gambling debts incurred when I was drunk, probably.
That's quite hard to talk.
Yeah,
that's like a big rap, isn't it? Thing.
Yeah, it's a full package.
And then on the other side,
I killed her mom too. I pulled the plug on her.
Your mom.
I didn't want to pay for medical treatment anymore. I do that a lot.
Yeah, the medical treatment's crucial. I mean, if you took out medical treatment, you've lost a lot of vertical plots.
Exactly.
On the flip side, are there any characters where you're like, do you know what, they were hard done by? I think they could have been redeemed.
You know, even this lady who sold her stepdaughter into sex slavery to the mafia to cover her gambling debts. I think this is a woman who needs help, you know, and I think to play at the evil is not really necessary. The words and the act, you know, do it enough. And, you know, what went so wrong with this lady's life that she's married to her second husband who's 20 years older and she's in this predicament? It just sounds dreadful. Like, I don't want to be her for a second, you know, even if she has all the money and the power, you know, it doesn't make any sense. And actually, I think the werewolf one was the most like understandable as a person.
Yeah.
She wasn't actually evil. She wanted what was best for her son, seeing it through the eyes of her traditions. And she had to get over it, basically. And so maybe that's a case of like one person who actually changed a little bit.
And that's actually a really common thing, isn't it? I mean, that's a generational thing that I think every family has, actually, isn't it? About, yeah, you try not to pass on and improve things from your thing, and you often end up adding, sorry, kids, here's your new trauma that I've just given you.
Exactly. Here's this old rubric that I'm applying to your life, you know, and like it's going to take a mindset change for me to be able to accept your life, basically, in the way you're doing it, not the way I wanted you to do it or thought that it was best. That seems pretty relatable. And I think, yeah.
So, just going back to, obviously you talked about costume and there's sort of an interest in that as well. How have you found vertical fashion?
I think that the Turkish ones are great. They're quite fun. And, you know, as the evil stepmother, usually you get to wear, you know, heels and sleek pants and they do your hair in all sorts of ways and great. It's tons of fun. I think because the one I was in, that was a Chinese one shot here in New York. You know, costumes don't fit. They order them off Amazon, pull them out of the bag and put them on you in the same breath, sometimes that day on set. So they're often quite uncomfortable. They have crease lines and things that I would not, as a costume designer, I would not allow that. Like, iron it first, you know, at least. Yeah. But I think because, you know, verticals are over the top. So people playing like the sweet, naive girl are always going to have, you know, pinks and bows. There's a lot of visual storytelling, very importantly, sort of symbolic visual storytelling in the outfits. And the evil girl is going to wear more black or like more deep, you know, cuts, tassels, lots of, you know, sparkles.
And we have identified if you're playing bad, you normally get the better costumes.
Yeah, exactly. Something really tailored and sleek.
And some of the leading actresses are like, I always get dressed in white and I look dreadful. I just look so much. Because obviously they're going for the look how pure and innocent and delightful.
Exactly. Yeah, actually, I think the worst character to play, and I'm sorry to Grace and other people who get to play this character all the time, but I think I've never played it, but the most boring character to play is probably the nice girl. You know, the innocent one.
And you've got a heavy workload as well because
you have all the lines.
You're in everything. Normally, you're really put through the emotional ringer as well.
Mm-hmm. And because, you know, the people playing, they're supposed to be, you know, some of them are even supposed to be in high school or college, and the people playing them can be 10 years older than that. They have to innocent them down. You know, in real life, obviously, these people are not naive and innocent in that way. So, yes, lots of white, lots of, you know, cute pink lipstick.
Yeah. So are you seeing a development at all in the scripts sort of since you first got involved? Are you seeing things evolving?
I have in the Turkish production companies, and I've talked to some of the directors there. They have, and they're making a conscious effort to make better scripts, you know, and even like rejecting scripts or rewriting scripts when they get them because they're just not good enough. And I really think it takes, you know, a production company or a director or working with a writer to helm that project, because the actors are powerless in that. Actors just say the words on the page, and without good writing, it's not a good show. So I think the conscious effort, and I know with the Turkish production companies, just because that's what I know about, they are banking on making the better product. And is there an audience for a better produced project, better acted project, better written project? Or do people not care and they'll watch whatever? And I think there is. And I think that's very heartening. And, you know, funnier and better situations and a couple more locations, you know, to really spread the story and make it a rich story.
Because I think it's fair to say that obviously quite a few of the verticals you've been in on Drama Pops, which is the main Turkish app. And I would say, yeah, basically the production, they look better and the sound's better. So that all comes across on screen. The interesting thing is obviously quite a few of them have been like pretending it's America, even though we all know it's been filmed in Turkey. But there was a great one recently where they got around that. And then basically he asked her, I'm going to Istanbul for a bit, come and join me. And then it used some of the scenery. And it's like, oh, look, here's the river, here's the city. And it's like, well, why haven't we done that before? Let's celebrate the fact that it's a slightly different landscape for viewers to look at.
That's really intelligent. I'm glad that they did that. I'm really heartened to hear that. The Chinese one I was in that was shot in New York, I was on set 9 days, and 7 of those were in the exact same place. And sometimes they pretend it's somewhere else. They just turn around, and it's stale in every kind of way, and there is a big world out there, and there's no reason you can't make a vertical that's proper, that doesn't cost an arm and a leg to make, and go outside, and show actually where you are. Don't pretend that Istanbul's New York or Vegas. Yeah. There's lots of stories out there.
What would you like to see be added to verticals? Like, how do you think the genre should evolve?
I mean, I like the genre. I think I like the scripts that do read like old Hollywood slapstick. And I think that's really a good challenge for actors, and especially for writers as well, and directors. And I think having better scripts will bring better people into it. And I don't know. I mean, the genre would have to change to make them not all stories about 20-year-olds falling in love for the first time. And I don't know if people want that, but I think there's a place for mysteries, for krimis, all sorts of detective stuff. I think there's a place for more period stuff. I don't see why. I mean, so far it's been very limited in genre, and I don't see that needs to happen. And the other thing, like beyond just like the product itself, I think on the business end, it's such an opaque industry, and obviously no union is looking after this in any country. I think there should be credits. Just credit people for their work. It's the decent thing to do. And also, what's the big mystery, And if people know the stars and they're the recognizable faces, or people have dug up, their names and who are they? But give people credit. Give the AD credit. Why not? It seems rude not to. It's like wantonly rude. And I know because drama pops or lots of these platforms were started by tech companies. They're not production. They're not entertainment people. So they weren't following those rules. They were just making a product to sell. And I'd like better, I don't know how this could happen, but better parity of pay. It's a wild west out there. And sometimes you learn accidentally from a PA or not accidentally from a PA that there's a lot of disparity, even just for small roles. I'm not talking about the big names. That's a different situation. And I think that's not fair. And as a union actor, it's very clear what everyone's getting. There's scale, there's different types of projects, different budgets. There's no mystery. And I think the feeling of, oh, wait, I should have asked for more. Or wait, if I had asked for more, they wouldn't have hired me, is not a good one. And that's not good for the industry. And I don't think it makes good people have bad situations.
Yeah. Can I ask, who are the unsung people on vertical sets?
Oh.
Who are heroes that need to be talked about more? Because you've mentioned about everyone should be getting credits, but who needs to be talked about more?
Oh, I mean, the writer, period. Nothing happens if it's not good writing. So, and then after that, honestly, like the one in the Chinese production I didn't have any lighting person, so there's no person to thank there. They just used whatever overhead lights there were. In the Turkish productions, lighting, the gaffers, and they do it so fast. And that's very impressive. And you never notice it. If you notice the lighting, unless it's like a noir effect or like a werewolf effect or whatever, then you want to notice it or just want to feel it. If you don't notice it, they've done a great job. And I think no one says thank you to them, but everyone should say thank you to them. Sound as well, both on set and mixing after. If sound is bad, the whole thing is cheap. Even if it's, Brad Pitt doing the performance of his life, if the sound is off, it's like, you just ruined it. And that takes a lot of precision on set and mixing after. And it's boring and like technical work, but we would be crap without it.
That makes a lot of sense though. Because I think that's the thing. We don't notice when it's good, but everyone notices a viewer when it's bad. So.
Yes, is that like my, traffic, I'm in Brooklyn, traffic in Brooklyn makes sound bad, a sound person would take that out and save me.
So just talking about your other work, obviously you are, creating, you've got movies going on and things. Are people getting more curious when they know that you also do verticals? Are you finding that people are like, Claire, can you tell us about this? Or is it still a bit, there's not that wider interest in the industry?
I was very curious about that too. And I remember asking, you know, some of like the, you know, the stars that I've worked with in vertical world, like, is there any crossover? Like, are you getting called up or are you getting auditions for, you know, whatever Netflix shows or stuff like that because of this market share that you have, basically? And for me, like I get some, you know, social media attention because of verticals, but it's a whole different cast of people. And like they don't know that I do other things and they're not necessarily interested. And they're interested in the verticals. So I'm curious to see if there will be some spillover. But so far, and everyone I know in my other film world that I say I'm doing verticals, some of the young ones know, like some of them, the young ones right out of film school, like, oh yeah, I you know, my friends directed a few of those here. But in general, people don't know what I'm talking about. I have to show them. And then they're like, what? So I wonder, you know, as production values of verticals changes or genres change, if there will be more, or if big players, big production companies in the States or the UK come in and do verticals, if there will be some crossover to traditional entertainment forms.
Because I wonder if it'll be, you know, obviously what we saw on TV. And initially it was, wasn't it? There was the TV industry and there was a film industry. and you know, you never would imagine film stars like Kate Blanchett being in a TV series. And obviously now,
right,
you know, people move a lot more smoothly between the two systems.
Definitely.
So my vision is I'm sure that will happen long term with verticals and it will just be another genre and people move between them all.
Yeah, absolutely. And like take someone like Eric,
where the roles interesting. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, like Eric has got such big spread and like a big following. Like I put him in a TV show, for God's sake, you know, he's going to bring all his people with him. So if I were the media, I'd be paying attention.
So as some, am I right in thinking, do you write? Do you direct? Kind of what other things do you do around?
I do. So I have a film production company. So we write and produce original works. And my partner in crime is a writer-director. So, and I am co-writer, writer, actor, and we produce together.
Yeah.
So we do everything. But writing is just the hardest part of a thing that has no easy parts. But yeah, so I do like to write. So I am sort of attuned to the writing and to valuing the work that goes into it when you could feel that someone really worked on it.
Yeah. And with your own projects, I guess there's two questions of one, are you tempted at all to try and move into verticals? And then second, wherever you are with that, what are your own personal projects that for you are like that's so fulfilling and that's the type of story I want to tell myself and my own projects?
I have never considered making a vertical. I don't know if I could write. I don't know if it's the genre that I would want to write. I prefer features. I like a long arc with lots of different parts that sort of are bookended and, you know, sort of larded out throughout the film. Not to say that a vertical can't do that. I've never thought of it. And I think visually, I'm a visual person. Having a landscape shape just allows you to see more in a frame. And the kind of movie that I want to make has a lot of visual storytelling, which is verticals are very dialogue heavy, obviously, because that's the limitation. And so you can't really do a lot of visual storytelling. It's dialogue driven plot. So that would be a limitation, I think. And I wonder how verticals are going to deal with that. How they can make it more visual. And if people want that, you know, if you're watching on your phone with headphones or just reading captions, is there a way to make it more visual? Like a more traditional movie? I don't know. And the type of stories that I like to write are, I guess you could say character driven. Like someone has something they need to do that they can't do. Can they do it? Maybe, maybe not. What's holding them back? And I wonder, you know, because verticals is episodic. If someone's going through something that's like an ongoing process, where do you cut it? You know, where's that dun dun dun? Next episode, dun dun dun. It'd be a completely different kind of writing to chop it up. It could be a good challenge.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, so when you're actually creating your own films like that, what is the process for then, when you've produced it, how do you get that in front of an audience? Because obviously the thing with verticals is that I think some of the appeal is that the production house, they get the deal with the app and it obviously pops up very fast on the app. Whereas I've heard people talking about, you know, they've made films and they're still not out for 4 or 5 years. How does it work once you've made a movie? How do you get that to an audience?
That's a good question. That's the hardest part, I'd say. If you have a vertical and you're hooked up with an app already, that's akin to already having a distributor or, having a Netflix that you're going to land on. In the I don't think it's easy to do in the vertical world. I think you have to have a certain amount of clout, not to mention the talent and the work to put in to actually make a good product. But I think it's hard. It's very hard as an independent writer, producer to get hooked up with a distributor or someone who's going to help you produce it, basically. So independent films, you make it on spec, basically. You're like, this is what I want to make. No one's telling me what to make. No one's saying, no, the market would really prefer this if, it was a damsel in distress, whatever. And then you try to find somebody. So with our first film, Sisters Caris, first you start with film festivals, and that's a way to show the market what you have. And the better your film festival run, the better for you. And either then distributors will approach you, or you will, be able to work with a sales agent to hook you up with hopefully better distributors.
Yeah.
And that's the way it goes. Unless you have a big name, it's very unlikely you'll get theatrical distribution. But on the other hand, very few people go to the movies anymore anyway, which is really sad. I'm very sad about that. So our movie's you can watch it on Tubi with ads for free, or it's on Apple, it's on Amazon, a couple others.
Amazing. So we're going to link that, by the way, in the.
Oh, thanks.
Part of the thing is, I think would be lovely is if we can pull over people who obviously know you from verticals and then go and watch and see our other work as well, sort of widen people's viewing. It's really something we said about movies, just as a kind of from a viewer's point of view. So for £20 in the UK, I can either unlock everything on an app for a week, potentially watch, 10, 50 shows that are generally my taste, or I can go to the cinema, see one show, one thing on a big screen, but I'm also spending an hour in traffic there and an hour in traffic on the way back, even though theoretically it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things where it comes in is not just the cost of the movies, but that we're also time poor.
I think you nailed it. Yeah.
You don't want to spend that long. I would much prefer that when I finally finish a really long day, I just want to immediately sit down and switch off.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I think you nailed it. And like going to the movies it's a whole process. That's your whole day then, getting there back, and you pay that much money and you didn't even get popcorn yet, So there is the idea of like, on a Saturday, go to the movies, and that's like the event of the weekend. I have a monthly pass to a cinema here. So for $30, I can go to unlimited movies. Otherwise, I don't think I'd see any movies. It's just silly.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's also what's out as well, isn't it? Because the interesting thing is, again, we talked about before we went on camera, is that a lot of vertical stories repeat. But then actually look at movies, and I was reading an article this week about, there's a reboot of I Know What You Did Last Summer out, and there's a reboot of Jurassic Park out. So I guess it's almost similar everywhere, isn't it? This kind of almost paralysis about taking a risk of saying something new.
Definitely. I think because, we're so algorithm based now, the algorithm says everyone likes Jurassic Park, make another Jurassic Park. You're bound to get people to come see it instead of convincing them of something that they might like or they might not like.
Which actually wonderfully brings the focus back then to independent filmmakers like you, in that maybe we need the other one, the verticals, to kind of make the money for the bread and butter, and then hopefully that gives creatives like you, then you've got the independent film of like, actually now I can focus on art, not trying to be like answer the algorithm whatever people want, but actually tell what I think matters and is an interesting story.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm really grateful to verticals. They've kept me alive. So and it, like I say, it's a bit of the Wild West, and prices have changed and rates have changed, and it's always a negotiation, and they probably are making more money, but they're paying less money. But it's a great way to be able to be an actor and act, and on the other side, do the other things that I want to do. Tell the stories.
And then I'm just going to ask you for basically life advice from Claire now.
No, don't.
I guess it's that. It's more, I guess, given your career, is there, I mean, it's such a cliche question, but is there anything that you wish you'd been told that would have been helpful to know? Making a career as a working actor, and also just a little advice about do this and you'll be all right.
I think the best acting advice I ever heard, and a lot of people, know this and quote it, but Tom Hanks in an interview said, what's the job of an actor? Show up on time. It's advice he got. Show up on time, by which you mean early. Be nice to everybody. Then know your lines and have an idea what you're going to do. And I think that's really the job. But I think one of the most important parts of that is to be nice to everybody. You don't know who's going to be somebody, or if someone's going to help you, or you're going to need somebody. You really, check the vanity at the door if possible. I guess that's not just acting advice.
No, but I did say life advice, and I would say that probably applies to every job.
Yeah. And there's always going to be people out there that are going to be cutthroat and are going to want to like elbow their way in. That's okay.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you so much for the time. It was really, really fun talking to you and just getting your perspective, and particularly, with your background in Turkish TV. So just thank you for being a total superstar and spending a bit of time with me.
Thank you, Jen. I really appreciate you.